The night was cold. Wind howled softly outside Ethan's small cabin on the edge of the colony. He had just made a cup of tea and was sitting by the window, watching the stars. It was peaceful quiet. Just how he liked it. Then knock. The sound was weak, almost like someone had barely tapped the door. Ethan frowned. It was past midnight. No one came here at this hour. He stood up slowly, setting his cup down. The knock came again, softer this time, like a plea. When Ethan opened the door, his breath caught in his throat. A figure stood there. No, not quite standing. She was leaning against the doorframe, shaking, eyes half closed. Her skin was pale. With a soft glow, her long silver hair was tangled and dirty. And her clothes, barely clothes. Just torn rags, wet from the cold air. She looked up at him with wide, scared eyes. "Safe," she whispered. Then she collapsed. Ethan rushed forward, catching her before she hit the ground. Her body was light, too light like she hadn't eaten in days. Her skin was cold as ice. He didn't stop to ask questions. He picked her up gently and brought her inside. He laid her on the couch and covered her with a thick blanket. Then he turned on the heater, added more logs to the fireplace, and quickly boiled water. She didn't wake up. Her breathing was slow. "Shallow, who are you?" he whispered. She didn't answer. Ethan took a closer look. Her hands had bruises. Her arms had small scars, as if from needles or burns. She had no shoes, just bare, scratched feet. He gently cleaned her wounds and wrapped them. He placed a bowl of soup nearby, hoping she would wake up soon. Hours passed. Finally, as the sun began to rise, she stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, and for a moment, she panicked. She tried to sit up fast, but winced in pain. Ethan raised his hands. "It's okay," he said softly. "You're safe here." She looked around, blinking. Her gaze landed on the soup. Slowly, carefully, she reached for it. Ethan helped her hold the bowl. She sniffed it first, then took one small sip, and then another, and then she started drinking. So fast, the soup spilled on her chin and blanket. She didn't stop. It was like she hadn't eaten in a week. Ethan grabbed more bread and gently offered it. She ate like a starving animal, but there was something else too. Something heartbreaking in the way she chewed without looking up, as if she expected the food to be taken away at any second. When she was done, she finally looked at Ethan. Her lips trembled. Her voice was quiet, almost broken. "Thank you." Ethan gave her a soft smile. "Do you have a name?" She hesitated, like she wasn't sure if it was okay to answer. Then she whispered, "Rihanna." "That's a beautiful name." He said, "I'm Ethan." She looked at him, eyes full of confusion and fear, like no one had ever spoken kindly to her before. "Where did you come from?" he asked. She looked away. He didn't push. He just nodded. "You can stay here as long as you need," Ethan said. "No one will hurt you here." Tears filled her eyes. She quickly wiped them away, embarrassed. Ethan stood up and brought her more food. He offered a towel and showed her the bathroom. She stared at it like she didn't know what it was. He realized something then. She didn't just run from somewhere. She escaped. That night, Rena sat by the fire. She had taken a proper bath, and Ethan had given her clean clothes, his extra shirt hung loosely on her small frame. She looked better, but her eyes were still distant, like she was far away in her mind. Ethan didn't ask more questions. He just made dinner and placed it near her. Suddenly, she spoke. Just one word. "Family." Ethan turned. "What?" She touched her chest. "No family." Then she pointed to him. "Safe." Her voice cracked. She lowered her head. Ethan felt something heavy in his chest. He had seen wounded soldiers, hungry orphans, even stray animals in war zones. But this girl, this alien girl, carried a sadness that didn't belong to someone so young. He sat beside her. "You're not alone anymore." She looked at him. Her eyes wide again. She didn't smile. Not yet, but she didn't cry either, and for the first time, she didn't look afraid. The sound was strange, not dangerous. Not loud. But raw. Wild. Ethan stood in the hallway, frozen, listening. Crunch. Gulp. Slurp. It was coming from the kitchen. He slowly walked forward, and what he saw made his eyes widen. Raina was crouched on the kitchen floor like a small animal surrounded by food. Crumbs, cans, pieces of bread. Even uncooked noodles. She was eating with both hands, fast, as if time was running out. Her silver hair hung in messy strands over her face. Her breathing was fast. Her fingers shook. She didn't even notice. Ethan standing there. He didn't speak. He didn't want to scare her. But when she grabbed a jar of peanut butter with both hands and tried to bite through the lid, Ethan took a gentle step forward. Hey. Wait, you don't need to do that. She flinched. The jar slipped from her hands and rolled on the floor. She backed into the corner, eyes wide. Her chest rose and fell fast. Don't take it, she whispered. Don't hit, please don't. Ethan raised his hands. No one's going to hit you. She froze. I was just going to help you open that, he said softly. He picked up the jar, opened it, and handed it back. She stared at him, silent, suspicious. Then slowly, she took it, her small fingers trembling. She licked the peanut butter with her fingers like it was the best thing she'd ever tasted. Then she started eating again, quieter now, but still fast. Ethan sat down across from her. He watched as she cleaned out every bite, every crumb like it was sacred. Her hands were so thin, her cheeks hollow. This wasn't just hunger. This was survival. When she was finally done, she sat back against the wall, breathing hard. Her lips were sticky. Crumbs clung to her chin, and then she said something that broke Ethan's heart. No punishment? Ethan blinked. Punishment? Why would I punish you? She looked at him like the question didn't make sense. Food is for workers, she sighed. Only after work, or mating. Ethan's stomach twisted. What? She nodded slowly. That's what they told me. Who? He asked. Who told you that? But she didn't answer. She hugged her knees instead and rested her head on them. Ethan stood and grabbed a towel from the counter. He walked over slowly and offered it to her. She looked at it like it was a weapon at first. Then, after a long pause, she took it and wiped her hands and face. Do you want more food? Ethan asked. She shook her head. Full now, thank you. Her voice was quiet but clear. More human than he expected. Do you remember where you came from? He asked gently. She hesitated, then whispered, a cage. Dark place, needles, screams. Ethan felt cold. He wanted to ask more, but she suddenly stood on weak legs and walked slowly toward the fire. She sat down in front of it and placed her hands near the warmth. She looked small, fragile, like a child who had seen too much. Ethan brought her a blanket. When he placed it over her shoulders, she didn't flinch this time. Thank you, she whispered again. Her eyes met his, and this time there was no fear. Just confusion. Like she couldn't understand why he was being kind. You're safe here, he said again. She looked down, then whispered, safe. Smells like fire and bread. Ethan smiled. That's a good smell. She nodded. Better than blood. He said nothing. Because what do you say to someone who compares safety to the absence of blood? Later that night, Ethan made a small bed on the couch for her. She crawled under the blanket slowly, like she wasn't sure if she was allowed. He turned off the lights and walked away, but before he reached his room, he heard her voice soft, almost like a ghost. Why did you help me? He stopped. He turned back. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. You were dying, he said. Anyone would have helped. She shook her head slowly. No, not anyone. They saw me and turned away. Ethan felt something in his chest tighten. I'm not them, he said. She looked at him one more time, then closed her eyes for the first time since she arrived. She slept peacefully. The scream shattered the silence like glass. Ethan jumped up, heart racing. He grabbed a flashlight and rushed into the living room. Rena was twisting under the blanket, eyes closed, her whole body shaking. Her fists were clenched. Her legs kicked like she was fighting something invisible. "No, let go. No more." She cried out in a voice full of pain. Ethan knelt beside her, unsure what to do. Then she shouted a name, "Zarin." And then again, this time broken and full of fear, "Zarin." "Please," Ethan gently touched her shoulder. "Rena, it's okay. You're dreaming." But she didn't wake up. Her face was wet with tears. Her mouth opened like she was gasping for air. The scream had stopped, but her body still trembled. Ethan didn't shake her. He just stayed close, letting her feel his presence. Finally, after minutes of silence, her breathing slowed. She opened her eyes slowly, blinking in the dark. She saw Ethan, and she started crying again, but quietly, like she was afraid to be loud. "I'm here," Ethan whispered. "It was just a dream." Rena sat up slowly, holding the blanket to her chest. She didn't speak. She just stared into the fire, which had burned low during the night. Ethan refueled it quietly, not asking any questions. Yet, after a few minutes, Rihanna said, "I saw him again." "Zarin?" Ethan asked. She nodded. "Who is he?" Her voice shook. "My brother." Ethan was surprised. "He's alive?" "I don't know," she whispered. "They took him first. I tried to stop them. They hit me. I couldn't move." Her fingers curled into fists. "They told me he failed, that he screamed too much, that he was weak." Ethan felt anger rise in his chest, whatever place she escaped from. It wasn't just cruel, it was evil. "I'm sorry," he said softly. Rihanna looked at him. "You believe me?" "Of course. Even though I'm not like you." He smiled sadly. "You're more human than most people I've met." Her lips quivered. She looked away. Then she said something Ethan wasn't ready for. "They called us numbers. I was 47. He was 46. We weren't names, just projects." Ethan's heart dropped. She continued, "They gave us food when we passed their tests. They punished us when we cried." "Zarin, he cried a lot." She looked down. "I haven't seen him since the blue room." Ethan placed a hand over hers. It was cold, but she didn't pull away. "I'll help you," he said. "Even if it's just to find out what happened to him." She looked at him, unsure. "No one helps for free," she whispered. "I don't want anything," he replied. "Then why?" Ethan leaned back. He didn't know how to explain. He had seen pain before on battlefields, in refugee camps, even in lost children's eyes. But this was something deeper, I guess. "I just want to be someone who doesn't walk away," he finally said. The next morning, Riha was quiet. She didn't eat much. She just sat by the window, staring out at the trees. She held a small drawing Ethan had made for her. A stick figure of a man and a glowing girl standing side by side. It wasn't good art, but she had smiled when she saw it. Now she just held it in her lap, running her fingers over it like it was precious. Later that day, Ethan heard a sound from the old communication box. It hadn't made noise in weeks. He turned it on. Static. Then a short, cold message played through the speakers. "Test subject 47 has been marked. Repeat. Target identified. Retrieval team dispatched." Ethan's blood ran cold. He looked at Riona, who had already turned pale. She had heard it too. She whispered, "Only one word. No." Ethan stood. "We have to leave." She nodded slowly, her hands shaking. "Will they hurt you?" she asked. "I don't care," he said. "They're not taking you." For the first time, she reached out and took his hand, and she said something that stopped him cold. "If they catch me again, I'll stop breathing." Ethan tightened his grip. "Then we make sure they don't." There was a shadow outside the window. It wasn't moving. It wasn't speaking. It was just standing there. Ethan reached for his old rifle. His hand didn't shake, but his heart did. He glanced at Rihanna, who had frozen like prey sensing a predator. Her glowing eyes were locked on the window, and her body was trembling, almost like it remembered that silhouette. Then 3 knocks. Tap, tap, tap. Firm, cold, controlled. Ethan stepped to the door and spoke loud and clear. "Who are you?" A voice replied, smooth and too calm. "Just a traveler. Lost, cold. May I come in?" Ethan didn't open the door. "Name?" A pause, then Keller. "From Sector 12, Rihanna gasped softly. Ethan turned to her. She whispered, terrified, "He knows me." "From the labs." Ethan didn't hesitate. He locked the door and pulled Rihanna behind the couch. The man outside laughed lightly, as if amused. "No need to hide her," he said through the door. "I've already seen her. She's grown, hasn't she? Beautiful. Work. I remember when she could barely speak." Ethan's hand clenched the rifle tighter. "She's not going back with you." The man sighed. "You humans. Always so emotional." He dropped something outside. It clanked on the wood. "A file," he said. "Her full record. Her experiments. Her gene chart. Even pictures with your name linked to her now. Your name's in our system, Mr. Ethan Carter." Rihanna buried her face in her hands. Ethan stayed silent. "I'm not here to hurt her," Keller said calmly. "Just returning company property." Ethan shouted, "She's not property." A pause, then that soft, evil voice again. "She is. And so was her brother." The silence inside turned heavy. Ethan looked at Rihanna, whose eyes were full of tears. "Again, Zarin," she whispered. "Is he alive?" The voice outside chuckled. "Maybe. Depends on what you call living." Ethan stepped closer to the door. "You have 10 seconds to leave." "You won't shoot me," Keller replied confidently. "You're not like us." Ethan aimed the rifle through the window, not opening the door. "I'm not like you," he said. "That's why I will shoot." Keller didn't reply. Then footsteps. Calm, slow footsteps fading away. But not far. Ethan didn't relax. "Not yet." Rena looked at Ethan. "Broken. He knows where I am now." Ethan nodded. "I know. He'll come back. I know." "Will you leave me now?" she asked. That question hit harder than the rifle in Ethan's hands. "No, never. But they'll mark you too." "Then let them," Ethan said. "I'd rather be marked with you than live in a world that sells people like tools." She looked at him with wide, wet eyes. No one had ever said something like that to her. She whispered, "You're strange." Ethan smiled softly. "You're not the first to say that." Later that evening, Ethan picked up the file Keller left outside. He didn't let Rena see it. He opened it alone. His face grew darker with every page. Charts, diagrams, notes from tests. One entry caught his eye. Subject: 47 responds emotionally to music, light touch, and verbal affection. Possible link to human empathy. May be useful as bait for subject 46. If retrieved. Ethan closed the file and burned it. He now understood something chilling. Rihanna wasn't the only one out there, and they wanted to use her. Again, that night, Ethan set up traps in the woods. Motion sensors, alarm wires, silent alerts. He didn't sleep. He just watched her sleep. Curled up by the fire, her hand clutched the same drawing from before. Even now, after everything, she still held it like it was her treasure. And then she said something in her sleep. One word: family. Ethan didn't move, but a tear rolled down his cheek. She sat on the floor motionless, staring into the fire like it was a window into another world. But Ethan knew it wasn't the fire she saw. It was something far behind her eyes. A place he couldn't reach. A memory she could no longer run from. Tell Me, Ethan said gently. Kneeling beside her, Rena didn't move. The light of the flames danced across her face, but her expression didn't change. Her lips were slightly parted, and her fingers clutched the edge of the blanket like she was hanging off a cliff. Finally, after a long silence, she whispered, "Do you know what it's like to scream and no one hears you?" Ethan looked at her, heart heavy. "I've seen pain, but not like yours." She nodded slowly, still staring ahead. "I remember the ceiling," she said. "Always white, always cold." I counted the cracks. 17 above my cage. Ethan sat down beside her. He didn't speak. She needed space, not questions. "They took me when I was very small," Rihanna said. "I don't remember my real home. Only the lab. Only the men in gray suits." She pulled the blanket tighter. "They didn't call us children. They called us subjects. We were numbers, tools. I was 47. My brother, 46. Her voice cracked. "They told us our job was to survive. That was our test. Survive injections, heat, cold, hunger, fear. If we failed, we disappeared." Ethan clenched his jaw. "Your brother?" She nodded. "Zarin always protected me," she said softly. "He shared his food, covered me when I cried. He told me stories about stars, about how one day we'd fly away and never come back." Ethan looked up at the sky through the window. Now he understood why she always stared at it so quietly. He said stars don't belong to anyone, not even the men in gray. She smiled faintly, then the smile vanished. One day, they separated. U.S. said he was ready for the final test. Her voice dropped to a whisper. He didn't come back. Tears slid down her cheeks, quiet and slow. I stopped talking after that. I didn't eat for 3 days. They shocked me for that. Ethan's hands curled into fists. "How did you escape?" he asked gently. She swallowed hard. "There was a fire," she said. Another subject lost control. Some of us broke free. I ran through smoke, past burning doors. No shoes, no food. I ran until I saw the sky, and then... She looked at Ethan. "I collapsed at your door." He nodded, voice low. "And I opened it." Rihanna turned to him now fully. Her glowing eyes shimmered with grief and hope. "You were the first person to ask me if I was okay," she said. "You didn't ask for payment, or tests, or blood. You gave me soup." Ethan smiled sadly. "You needed soup. I needed a family," she whispered. A soft beep came from the wall. Ethan walked over to check the small alert screen. A red signal blinked. Motion detected. East fence. Rena stood up instantly, her body stiff. "They found me again." Ethan turned to her. "Let them come." "I don't want you to get hurt," she said. "I don't want you taken," he replied. A moment of silence passed between them. Then she stepped closer and said something he didn't expect. "If they take me, promise me something." "No," Ethan said immediately. "Please, no." He looked into her eyes. "I don't make promises I plan to break." "They won't take you. I'll die first." She blinked fast, as if her body didn't know how to react to someone choosing her. She placed her hand gently on his chest. "You're strange," she said. "You keep saying that," Ethan smiled. "Because no one ever stays." Ethan grabbed his coat and checked his rifle. Rena stood beside him now, not hiding, not running. This time, she was ready. "I'm not a number anymore," she said quietly. Ethan looked at her. "No," he replied. "Your family." It started with the sound of birds suddenly flying away, then silence, too, quiet, like the forest itself was holding its breath. Ethan didn't wait. He grabbed his rifle and ran to the back window. Motion sensors blinked red. The east tree line had movement. "Rena," he said calmly but firmly. "It's time." She stood without a word. She had been waiting for this moment. They didn't knock this time. They didn't pretend to be travelers. They came like shadows, silent, armed and fast. Black suits, helmets, guns that didn't shine. No faces, no voices, just the cold focus of a machine following orders. They surrounded the cabin. One of them spoke into a speaker. Subject 47. You have 60 seconds to surrender. If the human interferes, you will be neutralized. Rihanna stood in the hallway, frozen. Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. You stay with me. She looked up at him. If you fight for me, you'll die. I know, he said. And you still choose to? I told you. You're not going back in a cage. The front door shattered with a blast. Smoke poured in. Ethan pulled Rena back into the kitchen and kicked open the trapdoor to the old cellar. Go, now. She shook her head. I'm not leaving you. I'll meet you there. Just hide. I promise. She stared at him. Then, for the first time, she did something she had never done before. She touched his face, not afraid, not trembling, just trusting. And then she disappeared down the stairs. Ethan turned. Heart pounding. One agent entered through the broken door, then two more from the back, hands up. One of them shouted. Ethan didn't move. He raised the rifle, fired once, twice, one. Agent dropped. The others scattered. Smoke filled the room. Furniture exploded. A fire started in the corner. Ethan ducked behind the couch, reloaded. Bullets slammed into the walls. A sharp pain in his arm. He was hit. But he didn't fall. Not yet. In the cellar, Rhea heard everything. The shouting. The shots. The crash of something heavy falling. Then silence. She stared at the door above her. Tears in her eyes. She could feel it. He was still alive, but weak. And then, something inside her changed. She closed her eyes. Her hands began to glow blue, like soft fire. Her heartbeat slowed. She stood, and when she opened her eyes again, they weren't just glowing, they were blazing. Upstairs, the agents kicked over the table. Ethan was on the floor, blood on his shirt, barely conscious. Subject not found, one of them said. Search below. They turned toward the trapdoor. It opened before they could move, and Rena stepped out. But this wasn't the scared girl who had once whispered at a doorstep. This was someone reborn. Her voice rang out clear and powerful. Don't touch him. The room seemed to shake. One agent raised his weapon. Too slow. A wave of invisible force knocked him into the wall. The others turned, but Rena moved like windlight. Fast, unstoppable. Lights exploded. Glass cracked. The air shimmered around her like a storm held together by willpower. She stood over Ethan now, hands glowing, eyes wild with fury. He gave me hope, she said to the remaining soldier. He gave me family. The soldier hesitated, then turned and ran. Silence returned. The fire burned low in the corner. Rih. Nan knelt beside Ethan. His eyes opened slowly. You okay? He whispered. She smiled through her tears. I should be asking you. He smiled weakly. That was new. First time, she said softly. I didn't know I could do that. You did good. She leaned down and placed her forehead against his. I will never run again, she whispered. Not from them. Not from you. Later that night, after patching his wounds and putting out the fire, they sat by the broken window. Stars shined. Above, Rena looked at him. What happens now? She asked. We leave, Ethan said. Somewhere they'll never find you. Will you come with me? He looked at her. I already did. The smoke was still rising. The battle was over. The ground outside Ethan's cabin was torn with deep footprints, scorched marks and broken metal. The fence was down. The traps were destroyed, but they were still alive. Rena sat beside Ethan on the porch, wrapped in his old jacket. Her hair was messy and her cheek had a bruise. Ethan had a cut on his forehead. His hand was burned, but they were breathing. They had. One. Barely. The retrieval team was gone, not because they gave up, but because they were forced to. Ethan and Rihanna had fought like a storm, her strange powers flashing like lightning, his human stubbornness like stone, and when it was over, there were no more footsteps in the forest, only silence, only only them. Rihanna didn't speak for a long time. She stared at the broken trees, at the crushed helmet lying in the mud. Finally, she whispered, "It's over." Ethan nodded. "For now." She turned to him, her voice small. "Will they come back?" He looked at her, and told the truth. "Maybe, but next time. We won't be alone." She blinked. "What do you mean?" Ethan smiled, wincing at the pain in his cheek. "I sent out a message after they came. A warning. Other humans out there, ones who care, they'll come. Humans like you, maybe not exactly like me," he chuckled, "but good people." Rihanna was quiet again. Then she asked the question that had lived in her heart since the first day. "Why did you help me?" Ethan didn't answer right away. He looked up at the sky, the same stars she always stared at. Then he said, "Because the world already has enough people who walk away. I wanted to be someone who stayed." Rina's lips trembled. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the small, folded drawing Ethan had made for her many days ago. The one with 2 stick figures and a tiny house. She held it out. "I drew something too," she said softly. Ethan unfolded the paper. It was clumsy, childlike, but powerful. A bigger house this time. 2 figures holding hands. A tiny third one between them, and above it, written in shaky but clear letters, "My family." Ethan felt a lump in his throat. He looked at her. Tears filled her eyes. "I never said it out loud," she whispered, "because I was scared it would disappear if I did." She placed her hand over her heart. "But now I'm sure." Then she looked at him, voice shaking. "You're my family, Ethan." He didn't speak. He just reached over and pulled her into a gentle hug. She didn't cry loudly, but he felt her shake in his arms, like all the pain was finally letting go. Later, as they sat in the morning sun, Rihanna looked peaceful, a little stronger, a little freer. "Do you think the stars are still waiting for me?" she asked. Ethan nodded. "They always were. But this time, I want to take you with me." He smiled. "Then you better teach me how to fly." And just like that, a broken girl with no name, a lonely man with no family, had become something rare, a new beginning.